This is an article from the New York Post. Biden should replace Kamala Harris with Hillary Clinton, Washington Post columnist suggests. Kathleen Parker, the Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist who weighs in on politics and culture for the Washington Post, said that the 76-year-old former Secretary of State who lost in 2016 would extricate the U.S. from old white men dilemma. I want to remind her that Kamala Harris is a younger black woman.
Well, what she's saying we really need is an older white lady. An older white liberal lady. She will fix everything.
We're going to replace young black woman with old white demon. I think it's a brilliant strategy.
Also, if Joe Biden just wanted to attempt suicide, there's no better way to do that than to put Hillary as your VP.
Because then they make her
president. You want to be one murder away from Hillary Clinton being the president, and you're the murderer? I don't think so.
She will unalive him.
Well, that's actually what a lot of people believe about the Clintons. But here's the funny part. Parker cited the 81-year-old Biden's steady decline the past few years. Steady. It's been exponential recently, which have been made more apparent through his stumbles, his search for words, his occasional blank stare, all of which are now impossible to ignore. I thought those were cheap fakes. Anyway,
right.
I'm curious. If your concern is that Joe Biden is incapable, why would you replace Kamala?
Well, because look, this is the whole game here, right? And this is obviously like what this woman, I don't know, this might be on like some subconscious level or something like that, but they all know they'd like to get Biden out. But the big obstacle to that is Kamala Harris, which in some move, whoever thought of it, I'm sure it wasn't Joe Biden, but whoever thought of it, she was kind of a genius pick in that sense, because she kind of insulates him from this, like, oh, we want this guy out because he's clearly in severe cognitive decline, but what's waiting in the wings is worse than him. So they're even thinking in their head, well, if we could get her out of the way and put Hillary there, obviously at the end of her thought here is Hillary is going to be the nominee, not Joe Biden. But so that's the real dilemma that the Democrats have, and they've had it for a while.
This hits the nail on the head with a hammer. So to wrap this all up with a nice little bow, we've talked about how they need to replace Joe Biden. And what does everyone say? You can't. Kamala Harris is next in line. If they can swap Kamala right now with Hillary steps in and Kamala is retiring because something happens, resigning, who knows? She doesn't want to be the nominee. I don't know how they do it, but it's easier right now to swap Kamala with Hillary. Then when Joe Biden falls up the stairs again and incapacitates himself, Hillary becomes the nominee.
Well, it's fascinating that Hillary will do anything to become president. Like, she's not giving up on this dream. She's willing to demote the first black vice president. It's very crazy to me. I think it is funny that this also says that Democrats do not believe that their younger future options are usable, right? They're going to go even further back down the bench and grab Hillary Clinton to roll into this.
It's a boomer strategy. It's just absolute refusal to pass the torch.
Yeah.
It's also it's fascinating. This is going to flip how Republicans react. Now it's going to be protect Joe Biden at all costs so that we don't get Hillary Clinton.
Oh, that's funny. But I think if they can swap Kamala with Hillary, it's the soft play, the first step.
Yep.
Okay, they can't remove Joe Biden for Hillary, for Newsom, or for anybody, because Kamala is young and capable of running, and she's vice president. But if for some reason it's still going to be difficult to get rid of Kamala Harris, for sure. But if Kamala says, for some reason, a family issue has come up which has strained my capabilities, Hillary Clinton has asked, or I have asked Hillary if she would become, then when Biden goes, whoa, it's easy. I don't know that this is a boomer strategy, and I don't know that this is the Democratic Party or a refusal to pass down the torch. I think it's more Hillary Clinton is banging and screaming on tables, being like, it's my turn. He stole it from me.
Well, but aren't those kind of the same thing in a way? Like, I think the point Angela's kind of getting at, which is really, it's kind of remarkable that this particular generation of powerful people, like when I was a kid, I'm a 41-year-old dad. And when I was a kid in the Senate, we had guys like Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden. In the House, you had Nancy Pelosi. In the Senate, you had Mitch McConnell. Like, all these guys were there when I was a young kid, maybe 20 at oldest, for like McConnell and some of these other. And some of those guys like Chuck Schumer were there before I was 20. And so there is something about that generation who, let's be real, none of them were ever very impressive. They kind of inherited the United States of America at its peak of power and wealth, and they just like simply will not pass the torch. So it's not as if Hillary Clinton, or the equivalent of Hillary Clinton in a previous generation, it would have been like, well, I had my shot in 2008. I got another shot at it in 2016. Obviously, didn't work out. I'm going to move on to something else. Whereas, deep down, she would like that. If she had a chance to get it again, would jump on it. And that is very peculiar.
She's not going to give up on her dream. Like I said, it's alive and well. I mean, I think if the Biden organization really wanted to keep their figurehead in power, they would have to pick a VP that countered his stance on the Israel-Palestine issue, because he's getting no confidence votes basically from a lot of young voters, from older progressive Democrats as well. And Hillary Clinton has been, protested out of the classroom at Columbia by the same people. I think that would be the only benefit to taking out Kamala Harris, is if you were to rotate someone in that could potentially appeal to voters that are trying to abandon you.
Yeah, but you're thinking like we live in a democracy, which we don't.
Well, I'm thinking like it's strategic, and I think it's a free-for-all over there.
But listen, I mean, you're right. Look, I mean, according to most of the polls I've seen, it's somewhere around 70% of Democratic voters want a ceasefire. About 50% of them consider what Israel's doing a genocide. Yep. So that's a pretty stark, like, political dynamic that you're in 50% of your voters' minds funding a genocide. That's an issue. But
wait, are you saying all voters across the board?
No, these are Democratic voters. So I'm just saying, for the Democratic nominee, that's a bit of a political situation. But if you're talking about, do you side with the people or with the war machine? Well, in U.S. politics, that doesn't mean, oh, well, you get one of the people in there that's for the people and one who's for the war machine. The Democratic presidential and vice presidential candidates will both support funding this war, no matter what they say.
I just want to ruin people's day by showing this picture real quick.
Yes.
If we could pull it. I just want to ruin people's day. This is the picture from the Washington Post talking about bringing in Hillary Clinton. And I don't know what it is that these affluent white female liberals who work in media don't understand about. It's one of the most off-putting things about Hillary Clinton is that she would cackle at the most inappropriate times, not too dissimilar to Kamala Harris, who emulates that behavior. But you can look at this picture, and Joe Biden is smirking a little bit, relatively neutral kind of face, and she's cackling. And, I look at this and I'm wondering, like, what was said that she's busting out laughing like she's heard a Dave Smith comedy routine, but Joe Biden doesn't flinch. And so what they do is someone in the Democratic Party told Hillary Clinton and told Kamala Harris, laugh and smile more.
Yes.
And they were like, you got it. Because Hillary Clinton doesn't laugh when she's in private. She's a nasty, evil person. You know what I mean? She's probably just like frumpy the whole time, angry. And then as soon as she steps out in public, her and Kamala have this thing where a reporter will be like, Secretary Clinton, can you comment on the loss of 12 lives in the latest fires that were taking place in Afghanistan? And she goes, like, why are you laughing? And Kamala does the exact same thing.
Well, I mean, look, both of those people, right? Like Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton, if you know a bit about like their track record and their past, like these are like truly vicious people. Like, listen, just a couple examples of this real quick. But if you ever heard the tape of Hillary Clinton where she's laughing about getting that
that
child rapist off?
Oh yeah, when she was younger.
She's laughing about it. Like, I'm not saying, by the way, I believe in defense attorneys, and I'm not saying like there's anything wrong with like defending even a really bad guy. But if you defended somebody who raped a 12-year-old brutally, okay, and you got that person off, to be years later laughing about how you duped the judge and the jury and how comical you find this whole thing, there's a sociopath who does that. And Kamala Harris, she was like known for as Tulsi in that famous moment where Tulsi called her out.
Yeah.
She had innocent people on death row and wouldn't release the evidence, was forced to. So I'm just saying there
she
is
also
something.
Enslaved people.
Well, yeah, what are you talking about? Just locking people up for
when she kept people in jail beyond their sentences to use them as slave labor to fight fires.
Well, look, I mean, I would argue that the whole thing is enslaving people and, locking people up for pot and all this stuff. But so you're talking about like truly vicious sociopathic women who do have this tendency to, like, whenever they're in front of the camera, just be cackling, laughing. And I think I'm sure you're right that people told them that, but I also think there's something of like covering up for that or overcompensating with this like bubbly personality.
It's like how people laugh when they're eating salad in salad commercials. Really, this weird, uncomfortable fake salad. It's like that, except it's like murder.
I do want to give a shout out to one of the greatest. I don't know if it's a real quote or not, but she was quoted as saying about Julian Assange, "Can't we just drone this guy?" And I love it because she like he was in the Ecuadorian embassy, and they had to tell her like. Secretary Clinton, he's in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Like, you can't just do that. But like, her go-to is like, why not kill him?
Oh yeah, of course, of course.
How many times did she say that about other people too, or other situations?
Right.
Sure. Can't we just drone this thing?
And they went, yes, we can.
Yeah, she was like, great.
And then
it worked last time, so let's get this guy. I have to say, this picture makes me think the photo editor for the Washington Post does not like Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And I sort of love that slight tilting of it. You know, they do this for everybody. They pick, a photo which frames their face a certain way, or, they've done, CNN did it with Joe Rogan where they alter the image. But this one makes whoever picked it, to me, they think this woman is evil and they want to show how maniacal she is.
Dude, she's like a caricature of a witch.
It's like
I know
Skeksis at the end of the Dark Crystal. She and Biden, like they are the 1,000-year-old millennial reign of cartoon evil.
I mean, well, look, they don't have a deep bench, and I think one of the issues here. And look, I tweeted this earlier today where I said I'm back to the point where, like, gun to my head, I had to bet I'm betting Biden's not the nominee. Now it's not. I'm saying if I had to bet, I'm not like confident enough in that like I'd put 10 grand on it.
You don't want that to be your official position recorded in history.
Well, I'm just saying it's close, but I think one of the things that people are overlooking is that this isn't entirely a question of do they want to pull Joe Biden and put someone else in there. That's part of it. But the other question is it possible that Joe Biden gives them no choice? And that's, I mean, I think fairly likely. I think we've almost been, because they've kind of gotten down to a science over the last few years, what cocktail of stuff to give Joe Biden to get him through a speech to the point where he could go do a State of the Union, and we're all kind of waiting to see, is he going to implode? Like, is he going to, now he pulls it off. Now, it's not good. He kind of, the first half, he's way too up, so he's kind of yelling, you know what I mean? And then by the second half, he starts to slow down and have more of the fumbles. But look, this is 4 years after the last time he got through a debate with Donald Trump, and it's no guarantee that Joe Biden won't fail so bad that there will just be no other choice than someone else has to run.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe and we'll see you all there.